Okay. All right, everybody. Let's see how many people do we even have here. Not a ton. That's okay. Um, we should have. We're still getting a ton of people watching afterwards, so my feelings aren't hurt. So here is the situation. We are going to try and finish. Well, we're definitely going to finish the second part of explaining the create task and maybe some short examples. That might only take 15, 20 minutes, I think. But what I want to do in the weeks to come is do some sort of from start to finish. Thank you, Mr. Rusi. From start to finish designs of apps with starting from scratch with an idea and working all the way through just to demonstrate the design process, or at least my design process. And these examples will not be for you to use; they will be for you to gain a greater understanding of how things work and how the design process work and how App Lab works and that sort of thing. But in order to, because the goal is to have sort of the create task streams or videos like standalone, I'm thinking that we might stop the stream so that it's a standalone video and then restart the stream right away to start sort of a walkthrough and kind of keep them organized and separate. Does that make sense to you, Mr. DeRusi?
It does, but we could share links with time codes and whatnot if we don't want to go through the process of starting and stopping again.
I mean, it takes a few seconds at tops, so especially if I don't do the stream starting thing, I don't think we need to go through that. I would actually prefer it to be a separate video. Just makes my mind feel better. Call it OCD or whatever. That's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in where we finished um, the plan was to lock off Unit 5, but we're actually going to do an experiment where we open up this create task unit that we showed on the last video, but it's unclear whether or not you will still be able to get to Unit 5. If you can't get to Unit 5 after we assign this, then I mean, you should be done with Unit 5. The deadline was yesterday. But I am curious if assigning this unit prohibits access to the previous one, and if for some reason you still need to get into Unit 5 and this setup prevents it, you can contact either me or Mr. DeRusi. But let's go ahead and do that. You know, it being 11 hours after the deadline, so it shouldn't be an issue. But yes, I am curious if you guys are still able to access the Unit 5 lessons and like actually affect them and do stuff in them, not just be able to see them. In fact, do we have? Um, hey, it looks like Eric. Eric, you look awake in the chat. Um, do you have the ability to go to code right now as we speak? And see if you can get into Unit 5. There's a bit of a lag, latency between stream. Okay, so you can't get into Unit 5 from Bemlock. Okay, so that's something we know. That's what I thought. There had been. Um, oh, so you can get into it. Can you see the? Can you see the code, or you just like if you can see the bubbles, but you can't. When you click on the bubble, it says like You can't be here. I think that's probably.
From what I saw last time, it says up at the top like your teacher doesn't think you're supposed to be here, and it doesn't show you anything besides like one line of text telling you you're not supposed to be here. That's
Okay.
what I've seen. I don't know if it's the same still.
Okay. Well, here's what we'll do. Mr. Drusi may have other agreements with his students, but for me, I'm going to leave it closed for a little bit so that I can grade the last 3 lessons from Unit 5, 15, 16, 17, and then I suppose reopen it so that you can have access to that information or those concepts. Although you can get all of the documentation and stuff from App Lab, so it shouldn't be a huge huge issue. But regardless, let's take care of the first thing we have to do today, and that is understand that which is abstraction. Okay, on the end of the last video, we wrapped up what an algorithm is, or we attempted to, and which was row 4, 5, and 6. Even though it was fantastic, even though when we go to the provided examples of create tasks, none of them have an example where the user earned a point for row 6. So as we parse the language, like we're looking for some sort of clarity. Download it again. Even the best one, we couldn't find a. Let's see what this takes us. Oh, this is their written response. Couldn't find an example that had a successful row 6. I guess is the 3 out of 8 definitely does not. These are all going to be downloads, I'm pretty sure. I don't feel like making an extra Google Doc. Okay, so yeah, it's. Let's go back to this one. Well, we talked about algorithms last time, so it should all be there. If I recall, we expressed our displeasure at the lack of clarity, but my suggestion would be to just overdo it and make your code and app more impressive than it needs to be, and as they say in boxing, don't leave it up to the judges. Even though we're leaving it up to the judges. Okay, don't worry about that. What else do we have? Oh yeah, God, I can't focus at all. We are. Did I close the one thing I wanted to open? No, here we go. Okay, so abstraction. Abstraction, completely different concept. Student code segment is a student-developed abstraction. Okay, we need to figure out what an abstraction is. The following are examples of abstraction: procedures, parameters, lists or arrays, applications, APIs, and libraries. Lists and other collections can be treated as abstract data. Okay, we didn't really get into APIs or application program interfaces, but things like if you ever seen a website, sort of like a low-rent, janky website that still had Google Maps in it, they didn't create Google Maps. It's not a Google. They're using a Google Maps API. That website is referencing an API that Google Maps provides. There's also like Twitter will do it, and U.S. Geological Survey if you are trying to make a map of some sort of data point. anything where you're referencing some other bit of information would be an example of an API. Other ways that we can satisfy, and again, remember our goal is to write code that satisfies these rows. So what is our abstraction going to look like? Responses that use existing abstraction to create a new, such as creating a list to represent a collection, would earn this point. Okay, that's actually new for this year. I believe last year didn't make that much of a emphasis on arrays. Remember, arrays and lists are the same thing for our purposes. Okay, the response is an existing. Do not award a point if any of the following. The response is an existing abstraction, such as variables. Okay, so you can't use like a Google Maps API. That doesn't count. I mean, you could for something else, but they're saying create your own API. Let's just ignore that. We are looking for the one that's gonna get us the point for this is parameters and lists. Okay, well, let's just keep going. The code segment consists of the abstraction that. Oh wait, let's turn this down. It's a little too loud. Okay, so the code segment consists of the abstraction. The code segment consisting of the abstraction is not included in the written response. Okay, so yes, you have to have an abstraction. You have to make sure that it is in the template. Okay, so this is the copy I made. Good. Oh, except I put the copy in here, so that's bad. Okay. You would have to put whatever portion of your code you are counting as abstraction needs to go in here. That's part of the earning that point. And this is for row 7. The abstraction is not explicitly identified. Okay. So in other words, you need to have a portion of code that is an abstraction, it's student developed, and you put it in the written response. That gets you row 7. Now, how do we get row 8? Okay, row 8, your written response needs to explain how the abstraction manages complexity. Okay, simplifies things. Okay, the response should not be penalized for explanations of abstraction that are not developed. Should not be penalized for should not be penalized. Okay, so in order to earn row 7, it needs to be student developed, meaning you need to have made it. If you accidentally use an event handler for your abstraction, you wouldn't get row 7, but if you explained it correctly, you could still get row 8. So it's not like good, better, best. You earn this point, but not that point. You could earn one or the other technically. And do not award point if any of the following. The explanation does not apply. Okay, your written response explanation has to be about the part that you selected, and you need to identify it. Okay, so the key for this one, explaining how it manages complexity. Lists and other collections treated as abstract data. Okay, these are just the references from the curriculum. Okay, so let's look at some examples that earned. Is this yeah, this one earned row 7 and 8. And where are we? Row 7. Okay. The code segment represents a procedure or function. Okay, let's read the student response. In order to use the such as wait, is this the student response with typos? Such as certain lines of code are not. I made my code use abstraction by using this time function and implementing into the event handler so the code is reduced and not being repeated on certain event handlers. Okay, so you're looking for something that can eliminate a lot of simplify things, like something, some sort of calculation or action or procedure that you would need to do in multiple occasions. Um, you would be an abstraction, like um, um, clearing out uh, fields, text fields, or resetting variables, or I would say calculating something based on parameters. Like remember we did return functions, which are super awesome high level examples. Um, I don't know. I know I said this before, but unfortunately, and if your goal is to get all 8 points, if your goal is to get these points, you kind of have to design a program to meet these rather than come up with a really good program and hope that they have examples of algorithms or abstractions, which is unfortunate, but here's our task. Let us complete our task. Okay, so implementing this, so the code is reduced and not. Okay, so there's a key phrase for abstraction. Um, Anything that's going to be repeated should probably be in its own function. Um, my first thought for my time function was using set integral function and the if statement. Okay, so it's this person is just talking about or writing about what this function does and what their process was, and basically just proving that they understand how it works. And yeah, so unnecessarily repeating code. That is a good way. The code is reduced and not being repeated on certain event handlers. Yeah. So the function is function. Oh, they are using this is a set key value, high score, score, and then this is a return function because where is the close? Wow, this is actually a lot more complex than it looks like. There'd be a lot of green bars. Let's see what this looks like in code. I'm curious. I wonder if it'll even let me. Projects and app lab and let's see here. Nope, I don't think I can copy from here. Is that right? Oh, it did. Let's see what here. Let's copy this. And this might be all be for not. And I got down to 1,000. Unmatched. Where does that belong to? Oh, I got one more at the end. And unclosed string. Oh, because this is a. And this is a. Oh, there's other variables and stuff. Seconds has. Let's see if it'll even go to blocks. Yeah, check that out. That is a lot of stuff. We haven't even used the green blocks, the data green blocks. Yet, for some reason, they took that lesson out um, of creating records and reading records, where you actually have a place to store data that doesn't get wiped away when you refresh the program. I mean, you can go in and clear it. Here's data, and it actually, I'm pretty sure it's JavaScript object notation, but you um, yes, parameters are abstractions, or I should say, a function that uses parameter. A parameter is gonna be just about, straight down the middle, a an abstraction. Just simplifying everything. Performance says, okay. All right. So a lot of getting off track, but that's um, the idea of an abstraction. We're only live 30 minutes or less. The hopefully that's a helps you understand that. The last part of the performance task, like I said, I'm sure I've said several times, is the uh, print code print, where you copy your entire project into um, you copy your entire text into, let's see, you go here, Control A, copy this one. You copy it into this, and then your entire code will show up here. And you put a, don't let me get this wrong, oval around the abstraction, I believe. Let's see what it says here. Does anybody disagree with the oval question? That would probably be here. Yeah, rectangle around abstraction, oval around um, algorithm. So let's put an oval. I would call this my abstraction. Excuse me, algorithm. God, I'm just gonna make you guys more confused. And an abstraction. Something that uses, I don't know, pretend this is my abstraction, and then you would so-called print, but you'd really save as a PDF, and that would be the third document that you handed. Okay, so you're going to turn your written response, um, where you actually write out your responses and copy just the, in this case, for the abstraction, you would copy just the portion of text that is in the rectangle. Um, so that would be calc first function called calc, which I've already, I think I used that for um, in here. But okay, so you put your copy of the code that you're going to talk about in your abstraction right above it, but it's also rectangularly um, um, surrounded in the code print. And we'll do a stream on how to actually submit things to to the College Board when it gets closer. We still have a bit of time. What is today? Today is here. Yeah, so we got a couple weeks. Okay. So let's go ahead, unless you have anything to add. Are there any questions specifically about the Create Task project? Well, I'm going to go ahead and just end the stream and then start the stream again. just to have them separated. Mr. Drusi, do you have anything to add about the create task sort of general instructions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So let me give me about 30 seconds or so, and I'll end the stream, and then we'll start it up, and um, we are not going to finish it today. I think what I'll do is should I remake the Final Jeopardy bet calculator or do the
There are two questions that just popped up, I think.
how strong does the purpose have to be? Is entertainment a valid reason to list? When they say purpose, it just means like, what is it supposed to do? Um, like, what if it's successful? What does it do? It doesn't really have to. Yes, entertainment is a valid purpose to do it. Absolutely. Um, it, yeah, just purpose. I think is um, a unnecessarily strong word to describe um, what they want. My guess. I don't think it's like to feed starving children is the purpose. That is my goal. I think it's what 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 is the what's the point? Okay. All right. So I'll end the stream and start it right back up. See you guys in 2 seconds.